Hello guys, Tops here. Today we are continuing our Nimble Forge series. Today we are talking about general armor setups. Note, I have no Excel spreadsheets, so I'm just making this by myself, and this is all the things I just kind of have in my company. That's kind of what I'm roughly referring to. So, in the internet, in the wiki, you can search for Nimble values. And basically the full Nimble value of 40% or 60% damage reduction is if you have only 15 fatigue worth of body and head armor together combined, right? So if you have 15 or less fatigue on your armor, you have full 40% Nimble. And for every 20 armor, you get 1% damage reduction from Battleforge. So that means your armor will take 1% less damage, which is huge, right? So as you can see here, this is my cleaver. He has a 2 in the helmet for 7 fatigue, a famed barbarian armor for 11 fatigue with a lindworm attachment that has plus 60 durability. So effectively we have 18 combined fatigue, and we have 44% nimble with 81% forge. That is kind of strong, right? Because now you have to imagine we still maintain almost the full advantage of nimble, but still we have the additional almost 20% damage reduction to our armor from Battleforge. And you don't think that is much, but it makes a huge, huge difference already. So generally speaking, you can lean more to the nimble side or more to the forge side, depending on how heavy your armor is. Ideally, like this build becomes really interesting if you get famed armor with armor attachments, right? Then this build becomes really interesting. But even without, I think it is pretty nice. You know, as you can see, like 2 in the helmets, assassin cloaks and ropes and stuff. Gladiator gear is like also very efficient in my mind. So yeah, that's kind of nice Nimble Forge setup. Also like all the nice Nimble armor that you get is like super nice for Nimble Forge as well. Also like these like super light barbarian armors. Like barbarian armor is generally speaking I think the best in the game, because you get this like super light armor. Like this one, for instance, like this is, you have to imagine 8 fatigue for like 148 durability. That is super light. You have a helmet for like 255 durability with 9 fatigue. That's also super, super light. And on the flip side, we have like the really heavy barbarian stuff. That is the heavy barbarian armor, which is like super high in value. It's like 350 armor, and like the barbarian helmets also are super nice. So like the barbarian armor, as you can see, we have basically almost full forge for like 11 fatigue. Barbarian armor is insane in this game. So hunting barbarians, so barbarian champions that is, so means barbarian kings, barbarian chosens. It's very dangerous, but very profitable. Because also, like if they have a nice axe or a nice cleaver, holy fuck. Brutal, these things, brutal. We want them. So, you can kind of see farming barbarian champions, one of the things we like doing. Okay, also honorable mention, I almost forgot. This one is also super nice, like the Oath Taker armors, also like medium armors. They're also not bad for Nimble Forge. Kind of nice additions to that. Oh, let's check if we can actually get a nice Nimble Forge value with that. Yeah, as soon as you have more than 40 durability, yeah, as soon as you get over 40 durability, your Nimble value is basically 0. And you can kind of see we now have, what's that? 38. We have now 38 armor, and our Nimble value is still 87. It's kind of funny, while having 81% forged. Yeah. If you look at this build, like 81% forged, now you can realize, or now you may realize how strong that setup is. We have 81% forged, but still 44% nimble. That is fucking insane. Like with famed gear, you can min-max this shit crazy. Like you have to imagine this is like basically double the Nimble value. Like we get twice the damage reduction from Nimble. Really, really nice. Yeah, I love this stuff. I love this stuff. So you can see like even with normal armor and like, by the way, armor attachments make a huge difference in this case. So like, of course you don't give this guy bone attachments because it is +2 fatigue. You don't want that because fatigue is all that matters if it comes to armor. Armor attachments that have no additional weight to them are the best for Nimble Forge setups. So Hyena Full Mantle gives you +15 durability and +15 initiative and costs you nothing. So this is basically, you get almost 1% Forge for free, basically, while maintaining your Nimble values. I think the clock, the Unhold Fur clock, like the white padding, gives you +20 durability, which also reduces the range damage that comes to your body, also has no additional weight, if I remember correctly. So this is also nice. Maybe it has additional weight. I should have checked before. I'm old, I forget things. But you can get the idea. So either like the things that weigh basically, that have no additional fatigue cost from wearing, like the Hyena Full Pelt, but give you additional durability, that's super nice. Or like the stuff that gives you the maximum durability for the fatigue. And that would be something like the Lindworm Clock. So the Lindworm armor attachment costs you 3 additional fatigue, but you get +60 durability. Yeah, so farming Lindworm armor is another way of getting nice armor attachment, because now you can take like a nice light Nimble armor, slap like the +60 armor on that, and you can achieve 200 body armor with almost no fatigue cost, and then you can reach like 80% Forge and like still like 40 to 50% Nimble. So you still have almost all of the benefits of Nimble while still having additional benefits from Battleforge. And I think this is the strength of this build. Also on top of that, you can go for like, you can use these famed items that are super weird, like this one for instance. We have 44% Nimble with 78% Battleforge. That's insane again. We have 9 fatigue for this one, and we got the +20 durability from the clock, as you can see here. And yeah, we have 9 fatigue for 254. So as you can see, like it becomes really interesting as soon as famed items get thrown into the mix. But even without famed items, which are generally speaking not too hard to come by over a long playthrough, but like I think a Nimble Forge setup, if you just want to go for a fast playthrough and just play hyper tempo and stuff, I don't think Nimble Forge is that good, but it's still okay. But like I would say pure Nimble is maybe a little bit better in this case. But yeah, overall I still like the Nimble Forge setup in general. Yeah, you have Gladiator and Oathtaker armor is like the stuff that I normally kind of would take. On top of that, like you have any kind of famed Nimble armor that you can get your hands on. It's gonna be great. All the weird Forge stuff that has like this one is like 252 is too light for Forge but perfect for Nimble, and too heavy for Nimble. Like that is excellent for Nimble Forge. All these kind of things. Another benefit is of the Nimble Forge build that you are faster. Like you have much more initiative, which means you might be able to outspeed slower opponents, which is a massive benefit in my opinion. And as you can see, they're like Zweihander helmets, which are, if you have Noble War, or like if you just make war with one of the noble houses, you have like Zweihanders are not the strongest enemy in the game, and you can like beat them relatively early, and they have like nice heads, and they also have this head, the duelist head. Although this is maybe Swordmasters have them too, but like this is also something that Zweihanders have. And you can see like you have 3 fatigue for 70 durability, so you can basically combine something like that, or like the new helmet from the library, like 75 for 2. If you combine that like a super light head if you take steel bow, like, and you take a super light head and then like super heavy forge armor on top of that, you can still achieve like pretty good numbers in general, overall speaking. And it gets better with Famed. So this is generally the Nimble Forge setup. I would say it is, generally speaking, I would say better to lean to the Nimble side more, where like you can get like still like below 50% Nimble and achieve like around 80% Forged. That is like the ideal, not the ideal, but like this is the things I prefer, kind of, because you have almost all the benefits of Nimble and the additional Forged benefits. So you are, and yeah, you have basically both sides, the benefits of both sides. And that makes you just super flexible. So you don't get one-shotted by big weapons, but you also don't get super easily like bleeding status affected because you have still a lot of armor. If you get shot at, you are fairly resilient because you still have a decent amount or much more armor than you're like the average Nimble guy. So these builds, they tend to be survivable, and like they tend to be more survivable than pure Nimble, and in certain scenarios more survivable than Forge. Although I have to say there's still a reason to take full Forge. Like full Battle Forge are basically immune to all the small stuff that gets sent at them, but are kind of vulnerable to the big heavy hitters. And Nimble Forge is much more resilient to like the big heavy hitters if you have lent more to the Nimble side, I must say. Going more to the Forge side, where's the more to the Forge side? Where was he? Yeah, look at this guy. We have 47% Nimble with 78% Forged with like a Famed helmet. So you can kind of see like that would be again like one of these builds where it's like super survivable, super survivable. Yeah, you can see basically have Forge on all of them more or less. Yeah, you can kind of guess if we redistribute a little bit of armor. Let's see, we need some lighter Forge gear. So this is like 30 for 3, 36, 32. This is 34. I guess it's the... See, this says bone plating. So normally this is 28 fatigue. So let's swap this around with my boy here. Yeah, and now we have kind of like more... We lean more to the Forge side where we still have like 70% Nimble, but also like 70% Forged. Like we have like a full, like, I think the ideal setup for this is like if you can still achieve like 300 setup, so like 600 armor in total, which would give you like super high Forged. That would give you basically 70% Forged. Like that would give you 30% damage reduction to your armor, full 300 setup. If you would have that, you would still achieve like 70% Nimble. That would be one of the ideal setups. But yeah, even if you just take an Oathtaker armor and like a lighter helmet with steel brow maybe, you still have like, you only take 87% hit points damage, which is like, that is significantly reduced. Especially if we factor in that like we take significantly, we don't get credit from like headshots anymore. So yeah, you have the more of the Forge setup, but you can already tell there's so much flexibility in this build. Like depending on the situation where it's like, I fight a very like a nomad camp with like 15 archers. You can go way heavier to the Forge side. Or if you fight a goblin camp or something, that's like, man, it's gonna be a lot of repeated attacks. So like Battleforge is really good at tanking like super weak hits and a lot of them, right? So you can lean more to the Forge side. But then there's the other side where like you just run into a Lindworm fight, and like it is generally better to have lighter armor and like high damage reduction, right? Because of the Lindworms, they hit with so high armor penetration that Nimble is generally speaking better against this. So like the Nimble setup might be better. Also, Lindworms are relatively slow, so you may be past Lindworms, especially if you have the hyena clocks on your bros. So you can kind of see like you can min-max for basically every fight on how much armor you want to wear. And you can not only do this with famed armor, which like that's kind of like the late game scaling. It gets like really interesting once you get these famed gears. But even with like normal armor that is like available, like gladiator stuff, you can get this if you buy gladiator, or if you buy assassins, you get assassins gear, right? If you defeat Zweihanders, you get Zweihänder gear. And like all of these like in between medium armors, if you buy Oath Takers, you get Oath Taker gear. And if you buy stuff in the shop, you get it. If you modify it, it becomes really interesting if you modify it with like armor attachments that give free durability, like the hyena clock, which is like super easy to get, right? So like it becomes really interesting. And I think this is a complete new way of playing, basically, I would say. And I don't think it fully replaces like the full Forge tank or like the full Nimble tank, or like you can still go for like full Nimble and full Forge builds. But honestly, I think this is a very interesting way to play, and a new way to play. And I kind of enjoy it, and I want to encourage you guys to try out the Nimble Forge builds and experiment yourself with the armor. And I'm pretty sure I could just go into the wiki and look for all these perfect setups and stuff, but like, I don't know, like realistically you take what you can get and you hunt for the things that are like super valuable, super light. So basically, anything that has like, I think if you have like more than 10 durability per point of fatigue, that is like really good, generally speaking. Yeah, and if you look like forged armors, usually they are super heavy, so they are less efficient in that way. So normally you have like less than 10 points durability per fatigue. And nimble armors tend to be much more efficient in that way. So if you can see, like you have, for instance, this is the Oath Taker head, which is like one of the best, not only for Nimble, but it's not bad for Nimble Forge either. You can see you have 5 fatigue and 110 durability. So you have 22 durability per fatigue point. That's insane, right? If you look at the normal Oath Taker armor, you have 34 for 300. So you have less than 10 armor points per fatigue, right? So if you do Nimble Forge, getting stuff like this and combining that with maybe like a 20 armor, like for instance the Nomad leaders, they have this like 20 armor, the Southern armor. That would be, I think, a nice setup for Nimble Forge, where like with 25 fatigue you still have like 60-70% nimble, and you also have like, then on top of that you have like 300 durability, so you get like to 80% forge roughly. So yeah, this is kind of the Nimble Forge setup. If you play Nimble Forge and you heavily lean on Forge, you lean more to the Forge side and less to the Nimble side, I would definitely take Steel Brow. If you play mostly Nimble and you have high hit points, like I would advise for 100 plus hit points, or at least 100 hit points if you go Nimble Forge, I would say you can swap Steel Brow for 9 lives. 9 lives is probably overall better on this build than Steel Brow, but if you heavily lean into Battle Forge, then Steel Brow is better than 9 lives, in my opinion, at least in the later stages of the game, because these high armor penetration crits to the head are like the massive failure point of Battle Forge, and like a lot of the time guaranteed injuries and death for your brother, which is like prevented by 9 lives a lot of the time. Alright guys, this was a lot of rambling, and I I hope I covered this well, right? If there will be questions in the comments. If you have questions, please feel free to ask me. And yeah, as you can see, this is like 18, like 44, 78. Like this is one of the one of the setups. Like that, bro, is like insane. And I really like if you have like the lighter Nimble armor and like you have a heavy helmet, you can kind of skip steer, bro, right? And just take the cloak attachment from the Unhold, like the white fur attachment, and then you like incoming range damage to your body is reduced by 20%. So like you are much less vulnerable to like archer fire, which is generally one of the weaknesses of Nimble builds. Like if you get repeatedly hit with arrows, your armor is gone immediately, and then you take massive amounts of hit point damage, and your brother dies quickly, right? Or like if like there's a range deck, your Nimble Forge guy or your Nimble guy just gets shot to bits and like dies immediately. That's something that is much less happening with Nimble Forge, because you have the additional protection of Battle Forge, so you have the additional damage reduction of the Battle Forge. But also if you have this one on top of that, the range damage is reduced by minus 20% additionally. So like you can see where this goes. You stack damage reduction, which means your brother is much more survivable. And I've seen this playing this company with so much Nimble Forge. Like these guys, it takes so long till their armor is gone and they actually start taking hit point damage. It is crazy how much these guys can tank, especially like the weak repetitive attacks from like archers, crossbow marksmen, and you still have the benefit of like the 44% nimble if a crossbow hits you and penetrates your armor and you take a lot of hit point damage. No, you don't, because you have 44% nimble. Alright, so this is one of my favorite setups. This kind of, I probably would lean more to the nimble side than to the forge side, but again, depending on the fight, you can much more lean on the forge side if you have the armor for that. You can min-max however you like, and you see the forge and the nimble values here, so you can just swap around the armor that you have, and you can kind of see, alright, no, I'm full forged now, and okay, no, I'm nimble forged, right? And like, yeah, you know, you can just make it lighter, heavier, go more to the 40% nimble. You can play full nimble and still have the forge benefits. The most flexible build in the game, I would say. And becomes really interesting if you get famed armor, then it becomes insane. Alright guys, I talked enough. I wanted to split this up in many parts, because you can see I can already talk like 20 minutes about random things, and there's so much more to talk about this. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I will see you in the next video. Have a nice day. Bye bye.